الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فكلي واشربي وقري عينا فإما ترين من البشر أحدا فقولي إني نذرت للرحمن صوما فلن أكلم اليوم إنسيا صدق الله العظيم. My dear respected brothers, elders, listeners, usually we have the hadith book that I recite from. The reason why I've not brought that in today is because I had started a topic before Salatul Jumu'ah, and because currently it's related to the season that we are in, so I thought that we can get closer and try and finish this topic because of these days that are coming and what Islam teaches us. So in Salatul Jumu'ah, before that, the talk was about the birth of Isa alayhi salam, and pre-birth, before Isa alayhi salam was born, how Maryam alayhi salam had conceived and Jibreel alayhi salam blew in her collar, and so on. And we had reached a point where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had provided dates, fresh dates and water, a small water stream for Maryam alayhi salam. Now when it was mentioned to Maryam alayhi salam, the water was mentioned first and then the dates. And then when we look in the next verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, Fakuli, now eat the dates, washrabi, and drink the water. Because usually people, before they eat, they would maybe drink water. And then they would eat. And then they would drink again because they become thirsty. So the order now is that eat and drink, waqarri aina, relax. Do not worry that a child is born. What are my people going to say? Do not worry about this. Just relax, have your water and have your fresh dates. And the ulamas have mentioned these are two things which are very beneficial for a lady before giving birth. Then she was instructed also, فَإِمَّا تَرَيِنَّ مِنَ الْبَشَرِ أَحَدًا, that when you take this baby and now you go, Isa alayhi salam, then people will question you. Then the reply would be, Inni nadartu lirrahmani sawma, that I have kept a fast. I have vowed and I have kept a fast. In those days, when one would fast from Fajr till Maghrib, they were not allowed to talk. Imagine we had that in our time. I think some would find it more harder than eating and drinking. You were not allowed to talk. But that was in that Sharia. In our Sharia, you are allowed to talk, but there are some restrictions of things that we cannot do while we talk. Example like backbiting, example like lying and accusing and slandering. So that we can talk, but we have to miss these things out. And if someone says that I will not talk and takes an oath, then this is wrong also. Is something that should not be done. Remaining silent and quiet, if one is sure that they're going to sin, then it's better to remain silent. But to take vows and on this matter is not allowed. And in our Sharia, part of that is not talking. So she had said, she was instructed that when you go back to your people, that you will not speak to them and say that I'm fasting. Now after Maryam alayhi salam had gained strength, she's got her baby Isa alayhi salam. Some say after 40 days, after the nifas, after a child is born, then the bleeding which happens. So after this period of time of 40 days, Maryam alayhi salam has now فَأَتَتْ بِهِ قَوْمَهَا تَحْمِلُ. She goes back to her people and she is carrying Jesus, Isa alayhi salam. And what did the people say? قَالُوا يَا مَرْيَمُ لَقَدْ جِئْتِ شَيْئًا فَرِيًّا. They said, "Oh Maryam, that what is this indecent thing that you have done?" And they further said, "Ya ukhta Harun, O sister of Harun, your father was not an evil person. Your mother was not adulterous. Then what have you done?" Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was also asked this question, that why was Maryam alayhi salam, why was it said to her that, "O sister of Harun," when the difference of her time and Harun alayhi salam's time was such a long difference of time and years? So why was she referred as the sister of Harun? In those times, the Arabs, they would still recognize people on their lineage. And she was from that lineage, so they had said, "Oh, sister of Harun." Like you have tribes and people say, "Oh, brother of Tamim," the tribe of Tamim. The second point the Mufassirin mentioned is, she did have a brother called Harun. So these are two possible things. فَأَشَارَتْ إِلَيْهِ. She pointed towards Isa alayhi salam. Maryam alayhi salam pointed towards him. And the people, her nation, they said, "How can we speak to this child? كَيْفَ نُكَلِّمُ مَنْ كَانَ فِي الْمَهْدِ صَبِيًّا." How can we speak to a child as in the cradle that has been born? He cannot speak. And this is the time where Isa alayhi salam spoke. And if we ponder on the first sentence that came, a miracle, Isa alayhi salam spoke, and what did he say? What he said in one verse is so powerful, it refutes the Christian belief and the Jewish belief. In one ayah, what did Isa alayhi salam, what were the first words that came out? Inni Abdullah, I am the servant, the slave of Allah. What is that saying? I am not the son of Allah. I am not three of three. I am not God, but I am the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Refuse the belief of the Christians. Atani al-kitab. The book has been given to me. This book was to be given later, which is called Injil. But the past tense has been used because it's something which is certain. وَجَعَلَنِي نَبِيًّا. And he's telling the people that Allah will make me a Nabi, a prophet. It was not at that time, it would happen after. Refuse the beliefs of the Jews, because the Jews did not believe him to be a prophet. And Isa alayhi salam is speaking to people at the time where children do not speak, and telling them, وَجَعَلَنِي نَبِيًّا, Allah will make me a prophet, because they did not believe him as a prophet. They did not accept Isa alayhi salam. Now they wanted to kill him. They tried. In one ayah, refuse all their beliefs, what Isa alayhi salam mentioned. وَجَعَلَنِي مُبَارَكًا أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُ. Isa alayhi salam, this is his speech now, what he's telling his people. Children cannot, the time when children cannot speak. A baby is saying this. Allah will make me blessed where I go. Where he went, it was blessing. People benefited from him. وَأُوصَانِي بِالصَّلَاةِ وَالزَّكَاةِ. Allah has commanded me to pray namaz and give zakat until I remain alive. Can you imagine? Isa alayhi salam is helping people. He does not, the Mufassirin have written, he did not own his own house. He did not have a house to live in. He had no means of worldly things that we can think of. But what was his status, subhanallah? Today a person does not have a house. They feel terrible inside. They think, I've accomplished nothing in my life. The bottom line is, whether you own a house or you do not own a house, the end result is the same. That does not mean that we do not make any effort. If you can get to that, of course. But we are talking about those individuals that do not own a house and they feel that they have gained nothing in this dunya. There's nothing that they have. Isa alayhi salam didn't own a house. What did Musa alayhi salam have? They were so simple, they would say the sky is our roof and the earth is our bed. He had nothing. وَبَرًّا بِوَالِدَتِي. Again, Allah's mentioning that I will be kind to my mother. Clearly mentioning again my mother, because he did not have a father. He was born without a father. It was a miracle. And then people will bring science into this. And if we look at Tafseer-e-Quran, I was just reading this. There is a scientist in the Muslim world called Ibn Sina. And he has proven and he has mentioned scientifically, in an unusual case, and that case Allah knows best what it is, that this is even still possible. No one can say that it's impossible. It can be a rare case, it can be something which has happened. But as Muslim, Allah's mentioned this in the Quran, that's enough for us. I remember one brother, on one occasion he came to me and said, can you tell me what is the wisdom in keeping a beard? So I said to him, why do we need to go into the wisdom? This is a question that a non-Muslim may need to answer and explain to him. Is it not enough that the Prophet has said keep a beard? That's enough for the Muslim. If the Prophet has said something, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's enough for me. I don't need to go look into what wisdom and what happens and so on. This is an answer to a non-Muslim. He wants some other answers. So when Allah said something, that's enough for us. But Ibn Sina, he mentions that in unusual conditions it can be possible. Whether that is a very, very rare case and so on. Mufti Shafi Sahab has mentioned this under these verses about Ibn Sina. Now, moving on. وَبَرًّا بِوَالِدَتِي, I'll be kind to my mother. Again, Allah is saying, look, the man Isa alayhi salam has no father. He is born without a father. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not made me from those that are shaqi, unfortunate, and those that are oppressive. And peace and salam will be upon me. The day I was born, the day I will die, which is telling us he'll come back, because he's not passed away yet. He's still alive in the heavens. He will come down at the end times. The day I will die and the day I will be resurrected. ذَلِكَ عِيسَى ibn Maryam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is Isa, son of Maryam. In the Quran, again and again, we will find Isa, son of Maryam. Isa, son of Maryam. قَوْلَ الْحَقِّ الَّذِي فِيهِ يَمْتَرُونَ. This is the truth. But they're still doubtful. They still have doubts. مَا كَانَ لِلَّهِ أَن يَتَّخِذَ مِن وَلَدٍ سُبْحَانَهُ. It's not for Allah. It's not befitting for Allah. Allah is not in need of a child. Subhana, He's pure from all this. When He says and decides for a matter, it will happen. He just says, kun fayakun, and it will happen. He's not in need of you to say kun fayakun. So this is our aqidah that we have mentioned. Then Allah mentions the Christians. They had ikhtilaf and differences amongst themselves. But they will, on the day of resurrection, it will be very clear to them how well will they see and how well will they hear on that day. And that is a day of remorse. So now our aqidah is very clear. As Muslims, we have our aqidah very clear, and this is what we stay firm on. But it's very sad. I'm just going to finish up on these points. What happens? It comes to this season, the Christians are celebrating. That is their religion. Let them do what they are doing. They're celebrating. But why are Muslims getting involved when it's not part of our religion? We don't believe that. But you see, on Christmas Day, there are Muslims that are having Christmas dinner. Turkeys and so on, because they think it's a holiday and we're missing out if we do not do this. Having a nice family meal with the party hats on. Muslims are doing this. And if you think I'm just making this up, go to your local butcher and ask him how many Muslims buy turkey off you. I've done it, and I've asked how many Muslims, and they'll tell you during this time we are very busy. Muslims that are buying turkeys. Maybe they're just buying it to eat. That's the husn al-dhan that we should have. That's fine. But if you are having it on Christmas Day with your party hats and having this meal, thinking if I don't do this, the whole country is I'm missing out on something. Subhanallah. We have our belief as Muslims. It's what we will follow. And now the question some Muslims would put is, when is our time for Eid? Their wishes, blessings, and they give us cards. Because their religion allows them to do that. We cannot do this because our religion does not allow us to do that. So we are bound to what our Islamic teachings are. We will be kind to them. We'll give gifts to them any time of day. There's so many rights for people that live around us, your work colleagues, your neighbors. Kind to them and do what we can that they are happy with us. Help them in any way that you can. But there are some boundaries that we have to stick by. We have to stick by these boundaries. And this is happening. The first time I heard about this, I was very surprised, and then I thought, let me look to see, is this really happening? I could not believe it myself first. I imagined that, is there really Muslim households that they would do this? This is what is happening. The dinners, then the parties during this time. Our youth are going out and involved in these parties during these holiday season. So the best thing for the youth is spend time in the masjid, or spend some time in the path of Allah, go out in Jamaat. This is a protection. During this season, what sins and haram that the youth are getting up to, we have to save ourselves. And to save ourselves, we need to be in the environment of the masjid. So one way that we can, and there is some Jamaats, two Jamaats that are going out. If you are above 16 and you have time in these holidays, which everyone does, and you want to spend your days in a spiritual way, then you would indeed, it will benefit you. So you can spend some time, inshallah. Otherwise, we are free. The shaitan will attack and drag from one party to the other and go out and do those things which are haram. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to understand. Ameen. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala al-mursaleen. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.